The station floated in the darkness between stars. It was old. Older than human civilization. Older than most species could remember. The metal walls carried scratches from 1,000 years of claws and hands. And things that had no name in any human language. Una pressed her face to the viewport and watched the dead star below. It gave no light. No warmth. Just a dark circle against the endless black of space. She thought it was a good symbol for this place. The Galactic Council did not welcome humans with open arms. They tolerated them. Nothing more. "Stop staring at that thing," Taiho said from behind her. "It's creepy." Una smiled, but did not turn around. "I like it. It's honest." Her brother made a sound of annoyance. He was older by 4 years, taller by a head, and worried about everything. He had been their communications officer for 3 years now. He was good at talking. Una was good at other things. "Assembly starts in 1 hour, Taiho said. "Hannah wants to check your suit one more time." "My suit is fine. She wants to check it anyway." Juana finally turned away from the viewport. Her brother stood in the doorway with his arms crossed. He looked tired. They all looked tired. The journey from Earth had taken 47 days. 47 days in a small ship with 4 people. 47 days of preparing speeches that nobody would listen to. Humanity wanted a seat on the Galactic Council. They had asked for 20 years. The answer was always the same. "Wait, prove yourselves. Show us you belong." Una walked past her brother and down the narrow corridor to the equipment room. Hannah was there, bent over a workbench covered in wires and tools. She was small and quick, with clever hands that could fix anything. "Your suit is fine," Hannah said, without looking up. "I know. I just wanted to see you before the assembly." Hannah finally raised her head. Her eyes were serious. "Be careful in there. They don't like us." Una nodded. She knew. The assembly chamber was enormous. The ceiling rose so high that Una could not see where it ended. Strange lights floated in the air, casting shadows that moved in ways that made her uncomfortable. Hundreds of seats curved around a central platform, and most of them were filled. Una had seen pictures of alien species. She had studied their cultures and languages and histories, but pictures did not prepare her for this. The smell of 100 different biologies mixed together. The sounds of breathing and clicking and humming from creatures that had never seen Earth's sun. The weight of their eyes as she walked to the small section marked for the human. Delegation, there were only 4 of them. Una, Taiho, Hannah, and Jiho. The youngest, who carried a data pad and looked like he might be sick. "Breathe," Una whispered to him. "I'm breathing," Jiho said. "I'm breathing a lot." They took their seats. The platform in the center glowed, and a figure rose from below. It was Overseer Veth Tall. Thin, covered in a hard shell that clicked when he moved. His eyes were black and empty, and his voice came out like dry leaves scraping stone. "The Assembly recognizes the delegation from Earth," Veth said. YUNA stood. "We thank the Council for this opportunity. Humanity comes with respect and hope for cooperation. We wish to formally request denied." The word came from the upper seats. Una turned and saw Commander Rolus rising from his place. He was reptilian, covered in green scales that caught the strange light. His teeth were visible when he smiled, and he smiled now. "The human request for council membership is denied," Rolus said. Again, murmurs spread through the chamber. Una kept her face calm. "May I ask why?" she said. "You know why?" Rolus walked down toward the platform, his claws clicking on the metal steps. "Humanity is young, weak, unproven. You have been part of the galactic community for only 60 years. Some species here waited 10,000 years before earning their seat. We are not asking you to wait 10,000 years, Una said. We are asking for a chance." Rolus laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "A chance," he repeated. "Very well. There is a way." The murmur stopped. Silence fell over the chamber like a heavy blanket. Una saw Overseer Veth shift uncomfortably. "The proving," Veth said slowly, "is an ancient trial. It tests endurance, pain tolerance, psychological strength, adaptability. It was designed to separate the worthy from the weak. Many species have attempted it, Rolla said. Many have failed. Some have died. But those who complete it earn immediate recognition from the council. He spread his arms wide. This is your chance, human. Send a candidate. Complete the proving. Earn your seat. Yuna felt Taiho's hand on her arm. A warning. Of course, Rolls continued. Humans are exempt from the proving. Your biology is too fragile. Your minds are too unstable. It would be cruel to send you into something you cannot survive. Laughter rippled through parts of the chamber. Yuna heard it and felt something cold settle in her chest. Not anger. Something deeper. Something patient. Who failed at last? She asked. The laughter stopped. Rollas blinked. What? The proving. Who was the last candidate to fail? Overseer Veth answered. His voice was quieter now. The Corvani. 11 cycles ago. Their candidate surrendered on the 5th day. Yuna knew the Corvani. They were famous for their endurance. They could survive in frozen wastelands for months. They could go without water for weeks. They were considered one of the strongest species in the galaxy, and their candidate had broken on day 5. Then I volunteer, Yuna said. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the floating light seemed to freeze in place. Taiho grabbed her arm. Yuna, no? She turned to face him. Her eyes were calm. Steady. Someone has to. Not you. Not like this. Yes, me. Exactly like this. She pulled her arm free and faced the assembly again. I volunteer as humanity's candidate for the proving. I accept whatever comes. Rolla stared at her. The smile was gone from his face. You understand that you may die, I understand. You understand that no human has ever attempted this trial. Good, then there's no record to beat. Only a record to set. Overseer Veth raised one thin limb. The volunteer is accepted. The proving will begin in 72 hours. The human delegation may use this time to prepare their candidate. He paused, and something in his black eyes looked almost curious. May fortune favor you, human. You will need it. The assembly ended. The aliens filed out, many of them glancing at Yuna with expressions she could not read. Pity, curiosity, amusement, contempt. Taiho stood in front of her, his face pale. Why? He asked. Yuna looked past him, toward the empty platform where her fate had just been sealed. Because I'm tired of begging, she said, and because someone needed to show them what humans are made of. She walked toward the exit, her footsteps steady and sure. Behind her, Geo checked his datapad with shaking hands. The records of the proving filled his screen. 7 days. Survival rate, 31%. And Yuna had just promised to walk into it alone. 72 hours. That was all the time they had. Jiho had not slept since the assembly. He sat in the corner of their small quarters, surrounded by holographic screens filled with data. His eyes were red and his hands trembled from too much caffeine, but he kept reading. The trial has 5 main phases, he said, his voice hoarse. Temperature extremes. Sensory deprivation. Physical pain stimulation. Psychological assault. And a final combined phase where everything happens at once. Yuna sat on the floor with her legs crossed, eating a protein bar. She listened without interrupting. Each phase lasts between 24 and 36 hours, Jiho continued. The system adapts to the candidate. It finds weaknesses and exploits them. If your fear is darkness, it gives you darkness. If your fear is isolation, it makes you feel completely alone. How does it know what scares us? Hannah asked. She was working on Yuna's suit, adding small modifications that stayed within the trial's rules. Bioscanners. Neural monitors. It reads your body's responses and adjusts in real time. Jiho pulled up another file. There are records of candidates who were strong against physical pain, but collapsed during the psychological phase. Others survived 5 days and gave up on day 6 because they couldn't take the randomness anymore. Yuna finished her protein bar and stood up. What about the ones who completed it? Jiho scrolled through data. In the last 300 years, only 8 candidates have completed the proving. All of them had one thing in common. What? They never stopped moving, physically or mentally. They kept their minds busy. They created patterns, counted things, recited words. The ones who sat still and waited for it to end were the ones who broke. Tuna nodded slowly. This made sense to her. During her years as a combat medic, she had learned that stillness was death. When everything was chaos, you kept your hands moving. You found the next wound. You solved the next problem. You never stopped. Hannah looked up from her work. I've added a hydration system to the suit. It's hidden in the lining. The rules say candidates can have water if it's self-contained. I've also improved the temperature regulation. It won't save you from extremes, but it might give you a few extra minutes of comfort. Thank you, Eunice said. Don't thank me yet. You still have to survive 7 days in hell. The door opened, and Taiho walked in. He had been gone for hours, trying to gather information from other delegations. From the look on his face, he had not found anything useful. They think you're going to die, he said flatly. Some of them are already placing bets on which day you'll break. What are the odds? Most think day 3 or 4. A few optimistic ones say day 5. Taiho sat down heavily on a storage crate. Commander Rollis has been telling everyone that this proves humans are reckless and stupid. He says we sent a woman to die just to make a political statement. Yuna's eyes hardened. A woman. Interesting choice of words. He's trying to make you angry. Don't let him. I'm not angry. I'm focused. Yuna walked to the small viewport and looked out at the dead star. Let them bet. Let them laugh. When I walk out of that chamber on day 7, they'll have nothing left to say. Taiho stood and crossed the room to stand beside her. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. I can't stop you, he finally said. I know that. You made up your mind the moment Rollis opened his mouth. Yes. But I need you to understand something. Taiho's voice cracked slightly. Our parents died during first contact. I was 23. You were 19. I held you when you cried for 3 days straight. I promised myself that I would protect you, that I would never let anything hurt you again. Yuna turned to face him. Her eyes were soft but steady. You can't protect me from this, she said quietly, and you shouldn't try. This isn't about me surviving. It's about what comes after. If I complete this trial, humans get their seat on the council. Our children will grow up in a galaxy that respects them. They won't have to beg like we do. They won't have to prove themselves over and over again. And if you die, then at least I died trying. And maybe the next human who volunteers will know that we don't give up easily. Taiho looked at her for a long time. Then he pulled her into a tight embrace. You're an idiot, he whispered. I know. Mom would be so proud of you. Yuna closed her eyes. I hope so. That night, while the others slept, Yuna sat alone in the darkness and watched footage of previous trials. She had asked Jiho to find recordings of candidates who had failed, not to scare herself. To learn, she watched a Corvani warrior enter the chamber with confidence. He was massive, covered in thick fur that could withstand Arctic temperatures. His species was known for endurance. They had conquered frozen planets. They had survived disasters that wiped out other races. On day 1, he stood tall against the freezing water. On day 2, he powered through the burning heat. On day 3, he sat in darkness and silence, meditating. On day 4, he screamed when the pain started but refused to surrender. On day 5, the psychological phase began. The chamber showed him visions of his family dying, his planet burning, his people extinct. He fell to his knees and wept. Then he surrendered. Yuna watched his face as he gave up. She saw the exact moment when his strength left him. It wasn't the pain that broke him. It wasn't the darkness or the heat or the cold. It was the belief that what he saw was real. The chamber had found his weakness and used it. Against him, she turned off the recording and sat in silence. What was her weakness? What would the chamber use against her? Her parents were already dead. She had already survived that grief. The chamber could show her their deaths 1,000 times, and it would hurt, but it would not break her. She had lived through the real thing. Taiho dying. That would hurt. But she knew the images weren't real. She would know they were tricks. She thought deeper. What truly scared her? Failure. The idea that she would fall short and humanity would suffer for it. The thought that her sacrifice would mean nothing but fear of failure was also a strength. It meant she would fight until her body gave out. It meant she would never surrender willingly. The chamber would try to convince her that she had already failed, that there was no point in continuing, that she should give up and save herself. She smiled in the darkness. Good luck with that, she whispered to no one. The next morning, Hannah finished the suit modifications. Jiho compiled every piece of data he could find into a small file that Yuna memorized. Taiho contacted Earth and told them what was happening. The response was immediate. Millions of people sent messages of support. Yuna didn't read them. She couldn't afford the distraction. On the final night before the trial, she ate a full meal, drank water until she couldn't drink anymore, and slept for 8 hours. Her body would need every bit of strength she could give it. When she woke, Taiho was waiting by the door. It's time, he said. Yuna stood, pulled on her modified suit, and took a deep breath. Let's go show them what humans are made of, she said. And together, they walked toward the proving chamber. The proving chamber was larger than Yuna expected. It stretched in all directions, a vast metal space with walls that seemed to shift and breathe. There were no windows, no doors visible from the inside. Once she entered, there would be no way out until the trial ended, or until she surrendered. Overseer Veth stood at the entrance, his dark eyes watching her without expression. You understand the rules, he said. It was not a question. I do. 7 days. No outside assistance. No communication. The chamber will provide water at random intervals.
Our food.
If you wish to end the trial at any time, speak the words of surrender and the doors will open. Yuna looked past him into the chamber. The floor was smooth metal. The walls reflected her image back at her, broken and distorted. What are the words? She asked. I yield. 2 simple words. The easiest exit in the world. Yuna would never speak them. She turned to look at her team one last time. Hannah stood with her arms crossed, her face tight with worry. Giho clutched his datapad like a shield, and Taiho stood closest, his eyes wet but his jaw set firm. I'll see you in 7 days, Yuna said. Then she walked into the chamber, and the door sealed shut behind her. For the first hour, nothing happened. Yuna walked the perimeter of the chamber, counting her steps. 412 steps to complete 1 circle. She filed this information away and kept walking. The lights dimmed slowly, then brightened, then dimmed again. The chamber was testing her, watching her responses, learning her patterns. She gave it nothing. At what felt like the 6th hour, the floor began to cool. The change was gradual at first. A slight chill in the air, a coldness creeping through her boots. Then it accelerated. Water poured from vents in the walls. Freezing water. It flooded the floor until it reached her knees, then her waist, then her chest. The cold hit her like a hammer. Her muscles seized. Her breath came in short, painful gasps. This was day 1. Yuna had trained for cold water survival during her medic certification. She knew that the first 90 seconds were the worst. The body panicked. The heart raced. Every instinct screamed to get out, to escape, to surrender. She counted to 90. Then she counted to 90 again. The panic faded. Her breathing steadied. Her heart slowed. The water rose to her chin. She tilted her head back and kept breathing. Then, just as suddenly as it came, the water drained away. The vents closed, and heat began to pour into the chamber. The temperature climbed. 80 degrees, 90, 100. The metal floor became painful to touch. The air burned her lungs with every breath. Yuna found the center of the chamber and sat down. She crossed her legs and closed her eyes. She had once helped soldiers survive in a burning transport ship for 4 hours. She knew how to manage heat. Stay still. Breathe slowly. Let the body adapt. The heat lasted for what felt like forever. Then it stopped. Then the cold returned. The cycle repeated again and again. By the end of day 2, Yuna had lost track of how many times she had been frozen and burned. Her body ached in ways she had never experienced. Her skin was red and raw. Her fingers trembled when she tried to move them, but she was still standing in the observation room above the chamber. Commander Rollis watched the monitors with growing frustration. The humans should have broken by now. Every other species had shown signs of distress within the first 12 hours, screaming, crying, begging for relief. The human did none of these things. She sat. She walked. She counted steps and breathed and waited. Perhaps the chamber is malfunctioning, Rollis suggested. Overseer Veth checked the readings. All systems are functioning within normal parameters. The chamber is performing exactly as designed. Then why isn't she breaking? Veth's black eyes reflected the monitor screens. I do not know. Day 3 brought the darkness. The lights went out completely. The chamber fell into absolute blackness. No shapes, no shadows. Nothing but the sound of Yuna's own breathing. Then the sound disappeared too. The chamber neutralized all noise. Yuna could not hear her footsteps. She could not hear her heartbeat. She could not hear anything at all. Sensory deprivation was designed to drive candidates insane. Without input from the outside world, the mind began to create its own. Hallucinations, voices, paranoia. The longer it lasted, the worse it became. Yuna understood this. She had read Jiho's files. She knew what to expect, so she created her own input. She sang songs her mother had taught her when she was small. She could not hear the words, but she felt them vibrating in her throat. She knew they were real because she was making them real. She counted prime. Numbers 2, 3, 5, 7, 11. 13 on. And on, until her mind had no room for hallucinations. She walked the perimeter again and again. 412 steps. Always the same. The consistency became an anchor. On day 4, the darkness remained, but the silence lifted. Instead of no sound, there was now constant sound. Screaming, crying, voices speaking in languages she did not understand. The noise was designed to overwhelm her, to prevent her from thinking clearly. Yuna laughed. She laughed because she had worked in field hospitals during the war. She had performed surgery while bombs fell overhead. She had stitched wounds while soldiers screamed in her ears. Noise did not scare her. Noise was familiar. She kept walking. 412 steps. Day 5 brought the pain. The first shock came without warning. Fire raced through her muscles, starting in her legs and climbing up her spine. Every nerve in her body lit up at once. She fell to her knees and screamed. The pain stopped. Then it started again. The pattern was random. Sometimes the shocks came seconds apart. Sometimes minutes. There was no way to predict them, no way to prepare. The chamber wanted her to live in constant fear of the next wave. Yuna understood the strategy. Fear of pain was often worse than pain itself. The anticipation could break a person faster than the actual suffering, so she changed her approach. She stopped waiting for the shocks. Instead, she used the time between them to move, to stretch, to keep her blood flowing. When the pain came, she let herself scream. She did not try to be silent. There was no weakness in screaming. The weakness was in giving up. Between waves, she spoke aloud. "Is that it?" she said to the empty chamber. "I've had worse. Try harder." In the observation room, Jiho watched with tears streaming down his face. Hannah gripped the railing so hard her knuckles turned white. Taiho stood motionless, his eyes fixed on his sister's form on the screen. "She's taunting it," Hannah whispered. "She's surviving," Taiho said. Day 5 ended. Yuna lay on the cold floor, her body shaking with exhaustion. The pain had stopped for now, but she knew it would return. She thought about Taiho watching from somewhere above. She thought about the millions of humans on Earth who were waiting for news. She thought about every alien who had laughed at her, who had bet on her failure, who had called humanity weak. 2 more days. She whispered into the darkness. Then she closed her eyes and let herself rest. Because the worst was still coming, and she needed every bit of strength she had left. Day 6 began with light after 3 days of darkness. The sudden brightness was almost painful. Yuna shielded her eyes with her hand and waited for them to adjust. When she could see again, she was no longer alone. Taiho stood in front of her. She knew immediately that he was not real. His edges were too sharp. His movements were too smooth. But the image was perfect in every other way. His tired eyes, the small scar on his chin from when they were children, the way he stood with his weight on his left foot. "Yuna," he said. His voice was exactly right. "You need to stop." She did not respond. "You're dying," the image continued. "Your heart rate is unstable. Your organs are starting to fail. If you don't surrender now, you won't survive the night." Yuna sat down on the floor and crossed her legs. "The trial isn't worth your life," Taiho's image said. "Humanity will understand. We'll find another way. Just say the words. Say, 'I yield,' and this ends. You can go home. You can rest." Yuna looked up at the figure that wore her brother's face. "My brother," she said calmly, "would never ask me to give up." The image flickered. For a moment, confusion crossed its perfect features. Then it changed. Now it was her mother standing before her. Yuna's chest tightened. The face was one she had not seen in 14 years. The eyes that had watched over her childhood. The hands that had held her when she cried. "My beautiful girl," her mother said. "You've done enough. You've proven yourself. No one will think less of you for stopping now." Yuna's eyes burned with tears. She let them fall. "I watched you die," she said quietly. "I was 19 years old. I held your hand while the light left your eyes. I know what losing you feels like." She wiped her face with the back of her hand. "And I know that you would never want me to quit." The image shattered like glass. For a moment, there was silence. Then the chamber changed. Yuna found herself standing on Earth, or rather, a projection of Earth. She stood on a hill overlooking a city she recognized. It was the city where she grew up, where she learned to walk and talk and dream. The city was burning. Ships filled the sky. Explosions tore through buildings. People ran and screamed and died in the streets below. "This is what happens if you fail," a voice said. It came from everywhere and nowhere. Humanity remains weak, ignored. When the next war comes, no one helps. No one cares. Your people burn, and the galaxy watches. Yuna walked through the destruction. She saw faces she knew, neighbors, friends, teachers, all of them dying. "You could have saved them," the voice said. "You could have earned respect. But you were too weak. You failed. And now everyone pays the price." Yuna stopped walking. "No," she said. "No. This isn't real. This is fear. You're trying to make me believe that failure is inevitable, that I've already lost." She turned in a slow circle, looking at the burning city around her. "But I haven't lost. I'm still standing. I'm still fighting. And your tricks don't work on someone who knows their tricks." The projection glitched. The burning city flickered and broke apart. Yuna stood alone in the metal chamber again. "I watched my parents die when I was 19, she said aloud. "I held soldiers together with my bare hands while ships burned overhead. I've seen real horror, real loss, real pain." Her voice grew stronger with every word. "You think a bad dream scares me?" The chamber was silent. Then day 7 began. Everything came at once. The temperature dropped to freezing, then rose to boiling, then dropped again. The light strobed between blinding brightness and complete darkness. Noise filled the air. Pain surged through her body in random waves. Images of death and failure flickered around her like ghosts. The final phase. The combined assault. Everything the chamber had learned about her weaknesses, deplored at maximum intensity. Yuna fell to her knees. For the first time in 7 days, she felt doubt creep into her mind. Her body was broken. Her muscles refused to obey. Her heart beat in uneven rhythms that frightened her. Maybe this was too much. Maybe she had overestimated herself. Maybe the chamber was right, and she was going to die here. Then she thought about Rallis. His smug smile. His certainty that humans were weak. She thought about every alien who had laughed when she volunteered. Every bet placed on her failure. Every voice that had said humans don't belong. Anger rose in her chest. Cold and clean and powerful. She pushed herself to her feet. The chamber threw cold at her. She walked through it. The chamber threw heat at her. She walked through it. The chamber threw pain at her. She screamed and kept walking. 412 steps. One lap around the perimeter, then another. Then another dot in the observation room. Every screen showed the same thing. The human was walking, slowly, painfully, but steadily. Around and around the chamber, step after step, refusing to stop. Jiho stared at the monitors with his mouth open. "She's not surviving it," he whispered. "She's boring it," Henna laughed through her tears. "What? Look at her. The chamber is throwing everything it has, and she's just walking like she's taking a stroll, like she's waiting for the chamber to get tired." Taiho watched his sister on the screen. She looked small and broken, and impossibly strong. "That's what humans do," he said quietly. "We endure. We adapt. We refuse to quit until our bodies give out completely." He shook his head in wonder. "And even then, we find a way to take one more step." The final hours were the worst. Yuna's vision blurred. Her legs shook with every step. The pain was constant now, a fire that never stopped burning. But she kept moving. Forward. Always forward. She lost track of time. She lost track of how many laps she had completed. All she knew was that she could not stop. If she stopped, she would fall. If she fell, she might not get up again. So she walked and walked and walked. Then the chamber went silent. The lights returned to normal. The temperature stabilized. The pain stopped. Yuna stood in the center of the chamber. Swaying slightly, her eyes unfocused. A door opened in the wall ahead of her. Real light poured through. She could see the corridor beyond. She could see figures waiting for her. For a moment, she didn't move. Some part of her brain whispered that this was another trick, another illusion designed to break her. Then she heard Taiho's voice. "Yuna, it's over. You did it. Real. That was real." She would know her brother's voice anywhere. Yuna took one step toward the door, then another. Her legs wanted to give out, but she refused to let them. She would not crawl out of this chamber. She would not be carried. She would walk. 4 more steps. 3, 2, 1. She crossed the threshold and collapsed into her brother's arms. 7 days, she whispered. "Told you I could do it." Then she closed her eyes and let the darkness take her. But this time, it was a peaceful darkness, the darkness of rest earned. Through suffering, the darkness of victory. Yuna woke in a medical bay. The ceiling above her was white and clean. Soft lights glowed from panels along the walls. She could hear the steady beep of machines monitoring her heart. For a moment, she didn't know where she was. Then the memories came flooding back. The chamber. The cold, the heat, the pain, the endless walking. She tried to sit up, and her body screamed in protest. "Easy." Taiho's face appeared above her. His eyes were red from lack of sleep, but he was smiling. "You've been unconscious for 18 hours. The doctors say your body needs time to recover. How bad is it?" "Mild frostbite on 3 fingers. 2nd-degree burns on your shoulders. Muscle damage in both legs. Stress fractures in your feet." Taiho shook his head slowly. "They also said they've never seen anyone push a human body that far without permanent damage. You're going to be fine, but you'll need weeks of rest. You're going to process this information." Then she smiled. "Worth it." Taiho laughed. It was a wet, relieved sound. You're insane. You know that, right? Maybe, but I'm also the first human to complete the proving. That makes me officially worthy of respect. She tried to sit up again, and this time, Tai-Ho helped her. What's happening? Has the council met? They're meeting right now. They've been arguing for hours. About what? Commander Rollis is demanding an investigation. He claims the trial must have malfunctioned. He says there's no way a human could have survived without cheating. Yuna's eyes hardened. Take me there, you can barely walk? Then get me a chair with wheels. I'm not missing this. Council chamber was full when Yuna arrived. Tai-Ho pushed her chair down the central aisle, while hundreds of alien faces turned to watch. Some of them showed surprise. Others showed respect. A few showed something that might have been fear. Yuna kept her head high. Overseer Veth stood on the central platform. Commander Rollis stood nearby, his scales flushed with anger. The investigation is complete, Veth announced. His dry voice carried through the chamber. All systems functioned normally during the human's trial. There was no malfunction. There was no cheating. The candidate completed the proving through endurance alone. Rollis stepped forward. This is impossible. Humans are weak. Their bodies are fragile. Their minds are unstable. The trial was designed to break even the strongest species in the galaxy. How could a human possibly succeed? The chamber fell silent. Every eye turned to Yuna. She looked at Tai-Ho. Help me stand. Yuna, help me stand. He did. It hurt more than anything she had experienced in the chamber. But she stood on her own feet, facing the assembly, refusing to appear weak. You want to know how I survived? She said. Her voice was rough, but steady. You designed that trial to break the weak, to find limits and push past them, to take everything a person had until there was nothing left. She took a slow step forward, then another. But you forgot something. Humans are not strong because we don't break. We're strong because we break and get back up. We've been doing it for 10,000 years. We survived ice ages, plagues, wars that killed millions. Every time the universe knocked us down, we stood up again and kept moving. Another step. Her legs trembled, but she didn't fall. Your trial showed me my parents dying. I already survived that. Your trial showed me my world burning. I already survived that fear. Your trial threw pain and cold and heat and darkness at me, and I walked through all of it. Not because I'm special, not because I'm different, but because that's what humans do. She stopped in front of Commander Rollis. He was taller than her by 2 heads. His scales glistened under the lights. His teeth were sharp and visible. She was not afraid. Your people exempted themselves from the proving 200 years ago, she said quietly. Maybe ask yourself why. Rollis's eyes widened. His jaw tightened. For a moment, it seemed like he might attack her. Then he turned and walked away, his claws clicking on the metal floor. Overseer Veth raised one thin limb for attention. The human candidate has completed the proving. According to the ancient laws, her species has earned full recognition from the Galactic Council. Humanity is hereby granted a permanent seat with full voting rights. The words echoed through the chamber. Some species applauded. Others remained silent. But no one argued. No one could. Yuna had earned this. Every step, every scream, every moment of pain, it belonged to her. It belonged to humanity. That night, the human delegation gathered in their quarters for the last time. Hannah had found a bottle of something that smelled like alcohol. Jiho had managed to make contact with Earth, and messages of celebration were flooding in from every continent. Yuna sat by the viewport. Looking out at the dead star, Tai-Ho sat beside her. How do you feel? He asked. Tired, sore, hungry. She paused. Proud. You should be. You just changed history. We changed history. I couldn't have done it without you. Without Hannah and Jiho, without everyone back on Earth who believed in me. Tai-Ho was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Mom and Dad would be so proud of you. Yuna's eyes filled with tears. She let them fall. I did it for them, she said. For everyone we lost during first contact, for every human who was told they weren't good enough, we are good enough. We always were. We just needed someone to prove it. Across the station, Aliens whispered about the human who had walked through hell and come out the other side. Some called her crazy. Some called her lucky. But most called her something else worthy, and in the council chamber, her seat waited. Empty for now, but ready. A symbol that humanity had finally arrived, not because anyone gave them permission, because a single woman refused to yield. The next morning, Eunice stood at the shuttle bay with her team. They were going home. Earth was waiting. A hero's welcome, parades, speeches, all the things that came with changing the course of history. But before she boarded, she turned back to look at the station one last time. Overseer Veth stood at a distance, watching her. Will there be more humans attempting the proving? He asked. Eunice smiled. I don't think there will need to be. We've made our point. And what point is that? She thought about the question. Then she gave the only answer that mattered. We don't quit. Ever. No matter what the universe throws at us. We adapt. We survive. We get back up. She turned toward the shuttle. Remember that. Next time someone underestimates us. Veth watched her go, and somewhere in his cold, ancient heart, something that might have been respect stirred. The shuttle lifted off. Earth waited. And across the galaxy, the story spread. They said humans couldn't endure the trial, and a woman asked who failed at last. Then she walked in, proved them all wrong.